I'm Jeff Helfrich, State Representative for House District 52. Life's messy, government's messier. When I was on the street, I got to see what worked and what didn't work. And in Salem, I see a lot of things that aren't working. I want to cut through that red tape, get to simpler government, and get to stuff that works for you. Here's our next episode. That's perfect, right? Today I've got Alek Skarlatos from House District 4 out of Canyonville, but he says it's Winston. He's a National Guardsman, trained hero, but what he's done most is he's sat there and fought for his communities and for his state and his country. So we're going to unpack everything he's done in his lifetime, what got him to Salem and beyond. So with that, thanks for being on the show, Alex. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, you were born in California and you moved to Oregon and you grew up in a small town in Southern Oregon, which is Douglas County down there, and it's the heart of timber country. What's one of the lessons that you learned early on that kind of carries you today and kind of shaped you from your days down in Southern Oregon, and kind of unpack that a bit for us?
I don't know if it's a lesson or not, but one of the things I always like to do when it comes to politics is just stay true to your principles. In Salem, it seems like, you compromise a lot, and try to get issues passed that are not perfect. And at least for me in my district, it's good to not compromise. I understand that's not the same for everybody, but my principles have led me to make the right decision more than once. And I think if you look historically, like the last couple of years, at least of my short political career, I've been on the right side of most issues by sticking to my principles.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people in small towns, that's what their driving principles, God, country, and then service and community. And that's kind of what you said, but that's what I hear a lot of. And that's what's driven me, and just sticking to your guns and not having that compromise, So you were in the National Guard, and you were deployed to Afghanistan, and then you were in Paris, and there was that terrorist attack that you helped stop. Let's talk about that a little bit, because you're kind of like the action hero and these things like that. I remember watching your commercials for your congressional runs and stuff, but talk about that a little bit. Now, there's something I want to make sure I read and get it right that was talked about, that was said about you. And so why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So I was coming off of a deployment to Afghanistan with the National Guard. One of my childhood friends from back in the day in Sacramento, he was stationed in the Azores in Portugal, which Azores is like the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I thought it was basically Europe, but anyway, so I was like, you're in Europe, I want to do a European trip, let's meet up. He invited our other friend Anthony. We kind of did our own separate thing for a while, met up like 10 days into the trip, and then we all met up in Amsterdam, having a great time, decided to continue on, go to Paris. We were in Amsterdam for about 3 days, decided to go to Paris, and then on the train to Paris, heard a gunshot and breaking glass come from behind me. I looked back, saw a shirtless man with an AK-47. Spencer woke up from a nap, turned around, saw what I was seeing as well, and then I just hit him on the shoulder and said, "Let's go." And to my surprise, he went. And the short version is Spencer tackled him, and I beat him over the head with his AK-47 while Spencer choked him unconscious. But
and you took care of business, right?
Yeah,
exactly what you did.
Just doing what we had to do to survive.
Yeah, no, it's in that moment. People don't realize that instinct takes over, all the training and all that. You don't think, you just react and go. That's pretty impressive. With that experience coupled with what was going on in Afghanistan, is there something that specifically shaped your life and then you're taking you to Salem? I know you talked about your principles. Is any of those moments there that may have shaped your life, how you stood up to something that you're taking into Salem when you're sitting on the House floor, talking with people and interacting with your colleagues across the aisle?
I don't know. I guess this might come out wrong. So if this gets clipped and used in a campaign ad against me in the future, I'm sorry. But it kind of gives me a sense of purpose in a way that I feel like I'm meant to be here, in a way that, statistically, you're never in a terrorist attack. Statistically, the odds of surviving a terrorist attack, statistically, the odds of being the ones that stop a terrorist attack, and then all the odds that we beat along the way about putting out a book and making a movie with Clint Eastwood. I mean, we've had so much good luck and fortune and God watching out for us along the way that it reaffirms, I guess, my thoughts with politics. Again, going back to staying true to my principles, it just makes me think that I was put in that situation for a reason and made the right decision. I'm put in this situation now politically, and I believe I've been put in this position politically in part because of my principles and because of what I believe, not even because of who I am as a person, but hopefully the decisions I can make in politics. And I think that's a big part of why I'm here. And so I'm going to stay true to those principles.
Yeah. I'm going to read something, make sure I get it right. When you redeployed back to the States, the Adjutant General said, quote, "True citizen soldier who displays the courage each of us would hope to find in ourselves." He was talking about you when you're recognized, and that to me is coming from the military, and 4 years, 7 countries, a conflict and a war that I went through my lifetime, and 25 years as a police officer. I mean, those are very small snippets in time that you can interact and go into chaos and bring order to it. And you did that, and that's awesome. I mean, you did what you had to do. You didn't even think about it. You just reacted, right?
I mean, to be fair, we didn't have much of a choice. The terrorist was behind us, and we were in the front of a train car.
You could have ran the other way. You could have ran the other. Other people could have ran the other way. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it as a police officer, right? High speed train, whatever it is, but it's still.
I always joke with people. I'm like, if we were in a McDonald's and we had an easy route of escape, and the same thing happened, I don't know if we would have made the same decision. But
Fair enough.
I mean, we were in a narrow tube of a train car going like 170 miles an hour. You can't jump off. You can't run. You have no options. You either just sit there and die, or you try to go out on your feet. And I mean, frankly, we did think we were going to die, so we just decided to roll the dice, and luckily it worked out for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. This year, last year, but this year you came into Salem representing House District 4, and it's timber country down there, and there's a lot of it's that blue collar, hardworking people, and government's messy, and there's a lot of politics, a lot of bureaucracy. What is there one thing to make somebody's life simpler and just get back to the basics like we've talked about that you want to do while you're here in your first term?
Oh, I mean, nothing realistic, to be honest. I mean, everything that would actually make people's lives better, it seems like the Democrats put a stop to. I mean, pie in the sky, I'd love to get back into harvesting our federal forests. That's the issue that got me into politics. That's why I ran for Congress. That's like my pet issue. So that would be my, ideal dream scenario of being able to get something done on that, even though it's a federal issue. But realistically, we're running a bill on ibogaine treatment for veterans right now. And that's something that I think we can actually get accomplished. It looks like it's getting a lot of traction, bipartisan support. So for a first termer, I think it would be a really good accomplishment, and I'd be very happy if we can get it across the finish line.
So what's the project or the bill you're working towards in the treatment? What do you mean by that?
Oh, it's ibogaine treatment for people with PTSD and head trauma. Ibogaine's a drug, almost like a hallucinogenic, like a psilocybin or DMT even or something like that. But it's not fun, and it's has to be administered in the presence of a cardiologist. It's just not recreationally abused really. And so it's something that I would love to see us use as a treatment, and it's more effective than a lot of the other psychedelics when it comes to actual treatment. It actually heals the brain physically, which is unusual. And I was just talking to a guy today. He came in with some psilocybin lobbyists, and they were trying to sell me on psilocybin treatment for the same thing.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I was like, have you done ibogaine? And he's like, oh yeah, it was fantastic. And I was like, well, how does ibogaine compare to psilocybin treatment? And he said, way better, like leaps and bounds better for treatment. And so that was very interesting, considering they came into lobby me on psilocybin.
Get a lobby on that, and he walked out lobbying the other stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was lobbying them on my ibogaine bill. So that's again, that would be a huge accomplishment for me my first term. And because right now veterans have to go to usually Mexico to get treatment on that, and so it'd be great if we could bring something like that stateside for that narrow use. Would be fantastic.
Yeah, there's this thing called Project Talvalhalla. I know I mispronounced that, but what they do is they're there for first responders and for military people. Suicide rates for first responders and military is high, PTSD. And I'm actually wearing one of their shirts. I'm not sponsored by them or anything but like that, but I support the cause because I think it's important that, people who served our country, people who are serving our communities get the help they need and understand they need that. And so I'm giving them a plug to go to their website, see what they're doing. You buy a shirt from them. They will then donate part of that back to families that are in need and help people get the treatment they need. The shirt I'm wearing right now is Keep Moving Forward. It's basically on the back. It gives you all these things not to do. Don't give up. Don't quit. And it's about suicide prevention. And so those are huge things that we got to really put forefront for me. Just as as a police officer, I've saw that with my colleagues and then military members too. And so those are, I think, what you're talking about there. That treatment plan for PTSD is huge. So let's go behind the gavel. You don't have a gavel. We're in the minority party, but from your day in the Guard, growing up in a small town, on the train, what's one thing that keeps driving you when you got getting into Salem to really just like, this is what I really want to do, try to make life simple, to get just things done? And what's one thing you would give back to a community member, like, hey, if you just did this, it'd make my job easier, and making it simple for them?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. I think it's a little different on every issue. I would maybe say just making sure your state representative knows what you believe, because a lot of times there's very strange, esoteric bills that come across that, I could go either way on sometimes. And if I had someone from my district say, hey, this is what we believe on this issue, because, we know more than you on this specific subject, just giving them advice and giving them your 2 cents. You never know. I mean, we get, hundreds of emails and we don't necessarily read them all, but if it's on a narrow subject, like, he wasn't my constituent, but that guy that talked to me about ibogaine, I'm running a bill on ibogaine. I've never used it, and he has, and he's also used all these other treatment methods. It was a fantastic learning experience for me, even though I'm the one running the bill on it. So just keeping in touch with your representatives, things like that, I think would be the most helpful.
Yeah. You touched on a little bit. I want to kind of unpack it a little more, but what is your vision for Southern Oregon? Government's a tangled up bureaucratic mess and all these things. What you talked about timber, is there something else that you could bring down there, economic driving forces, that says, yes, I want to push through this and cut this rate type. So, these people down here are hardworking and we're trying to they're trying to make ends meet, what we can make their life easier with.
Well, that's the biggest problem with Southwestern Oregon, is that there really is nothing driving the economy aside from timber. That's why it's been such a big deal to us. That's why, you probably don't know much about the ONC laws that are affecting Oregon's timber on federal lands, but it's
you're right. I don't, because that's not my wheelhouse, right?
Exactly.
But, fruit growing, all that stuff out of my district and all those things, and farming and law enforcement, that's my wheelhouse and what I got. So, but unpack that.
It's a huge problem. But basically what happened was, back in the day, the federal government seized a bunch of land from a railroad. The government paid them in land in exchange for building this railroad. And when the federal government seized the land, the county government said, hey, you're taking control of all this land that used to be on private, county tax rolls. We used to be able to raise money off of that land. Now it's federal and we don't see any money off of it. So we need to come to some sort of agreement or give us the land. Federal government said, no, we'll keep the land, but we'll give you a certain percentage of all of the timber that's harvested on this land. We'll give you dollar amount. And we will harvest at this rate of, I think it was 800 million board feet minimum. And that agreement was good, and it funded county government for almost 100 years, up until the early 90s with the Northwest Forest Plan. They threw the ONC Act out the window. And since then, Southern Oregon, especially the rural parts where my district are, have gone downhill so incredibly fast, because not only do you remove the tax base for the county, but all those jobs that people used to be out in the forest working, harvesting timber, driving it down in log trucks, people that would repair the log trucks, all the tertiary industries that went into that have since gone away, and there's no economic driver to replace it. There's tons of gorgeous places across the state of Oregon, including in my district, so it's not really, we can't really use tourism in that way.
Right.
There's a little bit of wine growing, but that's, not like a huge economic driver. There's better places to grow wine, frankly. And so there's no one thing that we can replace it with. We don't even have large cities in my area where we can, bring in a chip manufacturer like
Right.
everyone likes to do outside of Portland. There's no obvious logical replacement. I mean, it's like taking the coal miners out of West Virginia or the steel
Right.
mills from Pittsburgh. It's what they do. It's why those towns existed in the first place. And when you take that away, there's nothing left for them to do. And so it's not, regardless of the county tax base issue, which is a huge problem, just from a jobs perspective, it's decimating to our area.
So I'm going to interject public safety. And I know there's a lot of marijuana grow operations down there that are not legal grow
Mhm.
operations or illegal grow operations. And they do human trafficking goes through there and stuff like that. And then drug use and then methamphetamines, fentanyl and stuff like that. Talk about the impact of not having those jobs and how that's kind of decimated the community and hurt just a generation of people.
Well, it hits us on both ends, right? Because not only do those people not have jobs, and for example, the town of Glendale's in my district, and it was the first time I ever saw an actual like bread line of people waiting to get food, because a lot of the town is on welfare of some sort. They're economically devastated. The town was founded around timber mills, and now they're all gone. So all these people don't have jobs, but yet they still live there because that's where their family owned property. So there's that aspect to it. And then on top of that, you've got all that money that was funding county government, which included your sheriff department. So now law enforcement budgets are cut. At the same time, no one has jobs. At the same time, there's rampant drug use, fentanyl coming up I-5, human trafficking coming up I-5, all the marijuana grows coming in from illegal immigrants, which frankly, they've done a better job of cracking down on that lately. But it's a perfect storm in a lot of ways, and it just pisses me off so much that no one's done anything about it. And that's, again, why I kind of got into politics. It's such a beautiful district. And back when we were receiving the ONC dollars, we had one of the richest school districts in the country because of that ONC money that was coming in. Our county sheriff was fully funded, and now we have to get by on scraps and SRS money from the federal government. I mean, it's a shame.
Yeah, that's, those are those sad things that happen, like in Cascade Locks, where I was, first got my start in politics, if you will. They had 2 lumber mills there. The timber industry was huge out there, and spotted owl, it all went away. It just all went away. And you had a lot of federal forest lands, and now they can't, and they get the National Scenic Area and all those things like that. So, Alek, thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate that. I'm going to recruit you to the Back to Basics Army, and I can give you an upgrade from your private rank up to something else if you want. You'll be part of the OG crew on there, and I'll get you a t-shirt.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot. Hey, with that said, look forward to the next episode of Getting Back to Basics, keeping it real, but we got to make government simpler for people, not more complicated. With that, we're out.